Hey guys, welcome to my channel Total Angrezi. Before we start today's video, I request you to subscribe to my channel Total Angrezi, hit the bell icon to never miss an update, and do give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Today, we are going to do chapter 6, The Making of a Scientist, written by Robert W. Patterson. Now this story is based on Richard Ebright's story. It is his story of how he became a great scientist. Let's begin with the summary. Now you need to understand one thing about this chapter, this story, is that it is a biography chapter. But there are a lot of cases of dialogues in between where they have recorded interviews of all the characters, some of the characters that come across in his journey. So you can take this one as an informative chapter. It's not exactly a fiction story. Now, at the age of 22, he wrote an article in the National Academy of Science along with his college roommate, which was called How Cells Work. This journal, it was for the first time that this journal allowed college students to publish something like this, because it was a very notable journal, and it was for the first time that they let somebody so young publish an article in their paper. Now, they make this achievement of Ebright with sports as a big league or a home run at the age of 15, where they're trying to say that he's hit the ball out of boundary at his first attempt. So this was the first of his professional achievements, and it all started with butterflies. Now, they're not talking about butterflies in the stomach, they're talking about actual butterflies. We go back to his past, where we come to know that he grew up in North Reading, situated in Pennsylvania, and he had nothing to do over there. He had no friends, he had no people, he couldn't play baseball or football alone. So he developed the hobby of collecting things. He collected butterflies, which is a very weird collection, but he enjoyed doing that. He collected fossils, coins, and rocks. In the night time, he became an eager astronomer, and he used to stargaze and spend his time that way. Now here is when they reveal a few characteristics of Ebright, where we come to know that he had a very bright mind. We already learned that he was an eager astronomer, and also that he was very curious. Now it's not hard to understand that he was curious because he did so many things. One very strong backbone of his life was his mother. She gave him all the equipments possible. She bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, mounting materials. Mounting materials is because she took him on trips because he loved to learn. So she took him on different expeditions with other equipment that helped him develop his mind and interests. Now, he had lost his father when he was as young as in grade 3, and which is why they were each other's companion. He wanted to learn, is what his mother said. This was all what was his interest. So what they used to do is, in the evenings, his mother would call over his friends, and after everybody has left, they used to sit for dinner together. And after dinner, his mother would give him some or the other work to do, extra work to do. And if there's no work left for him to do, she used to create some work for him to do, just so that his brilliant mind could keep busy and could continue to learn. He was so good at the job he did that by grade 2, he had collected all the 25 species of butterflies that were there around his hometown. This is when his mother gifted him a book which is called The Travels of Monarch, and this opened the world of science for him. At the end of this book, they found a letter that was written by Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart, who worked at the University of Toronto in Canada. He was into the research of a lot of species, and he was in search of, butterflies to study them. And this is exactly what inspired Ebright. He wanted to take part in this. His mother wrote a letter to Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart and said that her son wanted to be a part of this, and thus began the entire season of collecting butterflies, and his interest finally found a destination, that his collection had some way to go. So he started collecting butterflies, and the butterfly collecting season lasted in the last 6 weeks of late summer. But it was very difficult, obviously, for him to run around behind butterflies and catch them. So he decided that he would raise a flock of butterflies. He used to catch the female, take their eggs, and he used to let them go through the entire uh, uh, entire life cycle of becoming a butterfly. And there were varied butterflies in different stages of their life cycle in his basement. And then he used to tag them with light adhesive tapes, and then he used to allow them to fly so that it could reach Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart. But he was ultimately tired of all of these tagging, because only 2 of his many butterflies were caught, and that too within just 75 miles radius of his hometown. Now, in grade 7, he participated in the county science fair, and he realized that he couldn't win the competition. His experiment, or his display, was of the slides of frog tissues. But it is then that he realized that the others in the competition had actually done live experiments. I have put out a picture of the frog tissue. This was exactly what he was showing to people under his microscope. This is when we come to know of his competitive spirit. Not in the bad light, but in a very good light. He wanted to win because he knew that he was excelling in the field that he was interested in. And so that's when he wrote again to Dr. Urquhart, and he wanted ideas to move ahead in, and he badly wanted to win in the next county fair, and if not anything, he at least wanted to put up something worthy of a watch. This is when Dr. Urquhart replies to him with a lot of ideas, which gave him a lot of prizes in the county as well as in other international science fair. So in the immediate next grade, in grade 8, he made a experiment that was detecting a viral disease that kills all monarch caterpillars every year. So his suspect was that if these monarch caterpillars are kept with beetles, then they would have this disease. But he did not get any results. It turned out that these beetles were no cause for their diseases. He thought that just because I gave it a try, I am going to display this experiment, and his effort finally won. In the next year, in the same county fair, he displayed another experiment, the theme of which was Viceroys copy monarchs. Viceroys and monarchs are both types of butterflies, and his theory was that monarchs don't taste good, but viceroys do. So it was in his theory, he wanted to show that viceroys copy the behavior of monarchs so that they do not get eaten up by birds, because monarchs don't taste good apparently, but viceroys do. I have a distinction here of a viceroy butterfly and a monarch butterfly, where you can see that they are very distinctly similar and very distinctly dissimilar at the same time. There are hardly any differences in the two, but only a person who is in the field of studying these species will be able to give you distinct discriminations between the two. But as you can see, there's not much, and he wanted to prove that this particular viceroy butterfly copies this particular monarch butterfly, because monarch butterflies don't taste good. So if they copy them, probably they could save themselves from being eaten by the birds. He realized that starling birds is a kind of a European bird. They do eat all monarchs indeed, which they like more than their ordinary bird food. Now, this experiment of his stood first in the zoology division and third overall in county fair. Now, as hard as it is to get all of this information, it is very important that you know all of these and you know exactly what experiment he did and what year to be able to answer questions that come in reference to this chapter. Moving on, in second year high school, he wanted to study an unknown insect hormone, because he wanted to, which led to further to his theory on life of cells. He wanted to find out what is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa. So far in all of these years, people thought that these gold spots on a monarch pupa were just ornamental. They were something that was just there because it made the butterflies look good. But he found something else from this experiment. He and another one of his brilliant science friend, they formed a device, they made a device. They studied these spots under those devices, and they saw that these were producing hormones that were required for the full development of the butterfly. So that means to say that if these spots were not on the butterfly, then probably that butterfly would not have a full grown body. This particular experiment won the first prize at county fair, and he went to work at the entomology lab at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research when he had his summer break. In high school junior, he advanced the same experiments on the monarch pupa, which gave him another first prize and another chance to work at the entomology lab at Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. In his senior year, this was the experiment he did, he grew cells from the monarch's wings, and he said that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from gold spots. It's exactly what I said a few seconds ago. There's nothing to be confused. If these monarch butterflies have these gold spots on them, completely healthy butterflies will be able to develop from that. Again, he won the first prize at the zoology department at International Fair, and he spent another summer to work in the Army lab and the lab of the US Department of Agriculture. He joined Harvard, and at the freshman year, he went back to work in the Department of Agriculture. He wanted to study more about the hormone from the gold spots, and he wanted to understand the hormone's chemical structure better. He knew that he wouldn't be able to do it without all the latest technologies and equipments that the department has, and that is why he spent more time in this Department of Agriculture to further his experiment. 1.5 years later, when he was in his junior year, he was looking at an X-ray of photos of the chemical structure of a hormone, and that is when he was struck with a brilliant idea. Now, he bought this particular X-ray of photos, bought the answer to biology's puzzle, how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. This is exactly the solution for which he found. What did he find? That DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. So basically, he proved that DNA is the blueprint for life. He did this along with his very close roommate, James R. Wrong. They sat up all night drawing pictures, constructing plastic models, and then both of them together wrote a paper on it. Now, he was very surprised that in spite of doing such a great discovery, not a lot of people knew him, and his achievements were grand. He stood second out of 1,510 people. And he furthered his study as a graduate in student researcher at Harvard Medical Schools so that he could continue to conduct his experiments. He then came up with the theory on the process of life. He wanted to study that further, and his ideas were enough to help prevent cancer and other diseases, all because of Ebright's scientific theory. His high school research that he did so many years ago led to his first professional breakthrough where he could study the theory about cell life. Now, it goes to show that maybe he's so interested in science that he could be a complete nerd or a geeky person, but that's exactly what he was exactly contrary to that. In spite of being such a brilliant science interest person, he was a champion debater. He was a public speaker. He was an eccentric cartoonist. He was a complete all outdoors person, which meant to say that he loved staying out and being into sports and etc. And he was also an expert photographer, especially when it came to nature and science exhibits. All throughout high school, he remained a straight A student, which means to say that he was amongst the toppers. He was in the debating club and in the Model United Nations Club, which meant to say that even though his interest was centric to science, he did not close all other options, or he did not let go or ignore his other strong points. His advisor and social science teacher was who he looked up to time and again. His name was Richard Weiherer, and He had changed his life because he constantly pushed him and motivated him to form new ideas and to work on those ideas. Mr. Weiherer said that Ebright was competitive. He used to stay up all night long to make researches, not just for his science experiments, but also for his debate and public speaking contests. He said that he wanted to win because he wanted to do the best job. He wanted to be competitive in the brighter spirit, not because he wanted to sulk because of losing, but because he wanted to bring the best out of himself. He was his own competitor, and he wanted to be the best for all the right reasons. We come to know that he's a first-rate mind. His curiosity and his will to win for all of these right reasons has made him the scientist that he is today. And it all started with the one book that his mother gave to him, Travels of the Monarch. Let's move on to my Vocabowiz section. Now, I find that this story does not have a lot of difficult words. So I've picked out a few words which I felt that needed examples and more explanations from the glossary that the chapter has provided. The first word here is leagues. Leagues is a groups of sports or clubs playing matches amongst themselves. For example, the leading goal scorer in the league was carried by the crowd because obviously he brought laurels to the team. County. A county is a region. For example, this is one of the most attractive towns in this county. Entomology. Entomology is the study of insects. For example, I majored in the field of entomology. And lastly, canoeist. He is one who paddled a mini boat. An example sentence is, the canoeist had a soulful voice. Let's move on to discussing all the important questions, which is the last section of my video for this chapter. The long questions have been discussed in points, and I'm sure you can frame the sentences by yourself. The first question has been, seen in sample papers of CBSE 2011. The question is, Richard's mother had a huge influence on him. Discuss. Or it could be also asked as, discuss the role of Ebright's mother in making him a scientist. So here are some points that I've listed out from the story which you can take help from to form the answer. Firstly, she used to take him on trips to ensure that he kept on learning because he loved to learn. He was a single child and her life's only focus after his father's death was her son. She used to buy him telescopes, microscopes, mountaineering equipment, other equipments, etc. And she used to give him daily problems to solve after dinner just because she wanted him to pursue his interest of learning. So she was his only companion and he was her only companion. When she saw that he was extremely interested in species and collecting butterflies, she gifted him the book The Travels of Monarch X, which is when she wrote a letter to Dr. Urquhart, that's Q, Urquhart, because she wanted somebody to guide her son. It is without a doubt that you can conclude from all of these points that she shaped him into an extraordinary scientist. So you can use these points in order to form an answer to this question, make them into sentences, lengthen them according to your best knowledge. Question 2. Ebright's study of monarch pupas had a far-reaching impact. Elaborate. So everybody until Ebright's research thought that, everybody in the scientific community thought that the spots on the monarch pupas were just ornamental, means it was just something that was used as, that was seen as something decorative on the butterfly. But Dr. Urquhart and then in time to come Richard Ebright did not believe in that. So he started conducting experiments on monarch pupa. He built a device along with his friend and he discovered the hormone. He proved that this hormone is necessary for the growth of a butterfly. This experiment got him many honors. This led to another important study, that is how cells read DNA, because DNA is a carrier of heredity and the blueprint of life. His theory was very helpful in finding a cure for cancer and for several other diseases. So you can use these pointers, like I said, frame sentences and use them to mark your answer. Question 3. Richard Ebright displayed a well-rounded personality. Do you agree? Elucidate in the context of the given text. This has been seen in CBSE's 2016 sample paper. Now, he was a genius since grade 2 because he was able to collect all 25 species of butterflies, apart from which he also collected coins, fossils, and rocks. Apart from science, he was an excellent debater, a great public speaker, he was good in photography, he was an enthusiastic canoeist, and he was an all-round outdoors person. These are all the points that we have already covered in the summary. He found learning very easy, and that is why he found time to pursue all of his other interests. He was a champion in everything that he did. He had a spirit of competition to win because he did not want to win to defeat other people. He wanted to win for his best. That is why it shows that he had an all-rounded personality. If you have anything to add to it, use that and these to form your answer. Question 4. Dr. Urquhart contributed significantly to Ebright's growth as a scientist. Explain. Now, Richard was very bored of collecting butterflies because it took a lot of time to tag them. So his mother gave him the book that we've been discussing, The Travels of Monarch X, which was all about the migration of butterflies. Through that book, she contacted Dr. Urquhart and asked for guidance for her son. He directed him to study more about monarchs' migration. He did not win in the 7th grade competition, county science fair competition, and that is when he sought his guidance again. Urquhart suggested some experiments to him, but brought a lot of laurels to Richard. He studied the bright spots on the monarch pupa, and that was motivated by Urquhart. This led to the discovery of a new hormone, that is how cells read their DNA. So it can be seen that he was no less than a true mentor to Richard Ebright. This is the last long question. What are the values required to become a great scientist like Richard Ebright? Elaborate with reference to the lesson, The Making of a Scientist. Now, this is a self-explanatory question. There's nothing to be explained, and you know very well that the answers are right in the textbook. But of course, this question welcomes a lot of your imaginative answers as well. What you can see from his examples, since they have asked you to elaborate with reference to the lesson, you can add that you can add the points of his curiosity, taking examples from this very chapter about his motivation, that he did not give up even though he lost. He wanted to compete with himself, not with others, which is a very good form of competition. He always had the urge to know. That is why he never stopped learning. Every opportunity, every day was a day of learning for him. He had a never give up attitude, like I said, that even though he won in the county fair once, that one losing did not make him give up on science altogether. Rather, it brought him laurels all the way. Of course, you need hard work, sincerity, determination, and patience. And most of all, you need the right spirit to be somebody as great as him. Use these and a little more to form your answer. Now, here are the short questions. I haven't listed the answers, but I can discuss them with you so that you can form the answers by yourself. What rare achievement did Richard manage at the age of 22? Now, he had a rare honor at the age of 22, we've already discussed, and we know that he wrote an article with his friend about the theory of how cells work. We also learned that this article was published in a scientific journal called Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. And I also told you that it was for the first time that this journal had allowed college students to be able to participate in the journal, because such big and such impactful was his theory. Question 2. Richard became a collector at an early age. How? He was the only child of his parents. He didn't have siblings at home. He didn't have company outside. So he started collecting things in his spare time. He collected coins, fossils, rocks, and butterflies as a hobby. Question 3. Comment on the role played by Richard's mother in his success. So this comes from the same answer that we did in the long answers. This has been taken from CBSE sample paper in the year 2015. You already know the answer. I'll suggest you to pick some points from that very answer and make it enough for a 2-marker. How did the book Travels of Monarch X prove as a turning point in his life? We all know that it is because of this book that he got a new path in his life. He was bored of just collecting butterflies, and this is when his mother gave him the book to read. And after reading this book, he studied the migration of butterflies, and that opened the world of science to him. Why did Richard lose interest in tagging butterflies? Now, he had raised thousands of butterflies. He tagged them and then released them to study their migration. But he lost interest because his butterflies just returned to him, and they had hardly traveled a distance of just 75 miles. So that is why he lost interest in the entire process. Question 6. Which project did Richard undertake in the 8th grade? Here is when he took the project on finding the cause of a viral fever that had killed thousands of butterflies, and he suspected that beetles were the reason that carried this virus, but he was not able to prove it. Question 7. Richard's project on the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on a monarch pupa was highly valuable in 2 ways. List the 2 ways. What are the 2 ways how it was impactful? Firstly, he discovered a hormone that was necessary for the growth of the pupa, and secondly, he got a chance to work at the famous laboratory during his summer break. Question 8. Mention any 2 of Ebright's contribution to the world of science. This has been picked from CBSE 2011 sample paper. He discovered a hormone that was necessary for the birth of a butterfly. His other important contribution proved to be his study of how cells read their DNA. Question 9. In addition to science, what were the other interests of Richard? You know that he was interested in debating. He was a good debater. He was a public speaker. He was a canoeist. He was a photographer. You could use all of these. Mr. Weiherer pays a glowing tribute to Richard. What did he say? He was Ebright's social studies teacher. He praised him because he had a brilliant mind, his curiosity, and for his will to win for the right reason. He also said that he admired Richard for the fact that he had the spirit to do the very best in whatever he did, not just in the field of science. Why do viceroy butterflies copy monarch butterflies? Now, birds eat the viceroy butterflies because they are very tasty, whereas the monarch butterflies do not taste all that good. So they try to copy the monarch butterflies to protect themselves from being eaten by these birds. Hobbies play a very important role in one's life. Elaborate this with reference to the making of a scientist. This is being taken from CBSE 2016 sample paper. This is again a very self-imaginative answer. But you could say that he had the hobby of collecting butterflies, and this is what led him to research and discover many other things along these process. So that is one of the reasons why hobbies play an important role. What were the factors which contributed in making Ebright a scientist? This has been taken from CBSE sample paper 2014. 3 qualities were a first-rate mind, a sense of curiosity, and a will to win for the right reason. This has been picked from the dialogue which Mr. Weiherer gives at the end of the story. With this, we come to an end of this chapter. I hope this chapter has been informative enough for you. Keep watching my space. For my next video is going to be chapter 7, The Necklace, written by Guy de Maupassant. If you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Do like, comment, and share the video with your buddies and help them study as well.